On this crankset, I've got a sealed cartridge bottom bracket. The bearings ride inside this body. Don't get a lot of tension on the threads, so all you do is you screw that into the drive side, screw that side into the non-drive side to keep it from wobbling, and you got a special tool. This tool fits on in there, and there you go. So, bottom bracket tool. Since we're at the bottom bracket and crankset, of course, we got to be able to get crank arms off, clean the bike, to change the chain wheels. By the way, there's a special tool for holding on to the back side of these chain wheel Allen bolts. There's a slot and there's a pin. So this little tool here has got the pin. It fits in the back. It'll hold the nut real securely. We'll use an Allen wrench on the other side. Getting back to this, you want to take the crank arm off. On this one, it's a large Allen bolt. Very large Allen bolt. You got a crank arm removal tool, also called a crank arm press. This one happens to be by Park Tool. There are a whole bunch of other ones out there in the world, so you don't have to necessarily use this one. That's an insert to allow this thing a little bit more purchase, and it simply screws into the crank arm. I know there's somebody out there saying, "Oh, I can do that with a hammer and bolt or hammer and punch." Don't do it with a hammer and punch. Spend $8 or $9 and get yourself a crank arm tool. Because it's easy as that, no pounding. And there we go. So, sealed cartridge bottom bracket, sealed cartridge bottom bracket tool. 3-piece bottom bracket, a few different tools. Good idea to go with the sealed cartridge. There it is. Go with the sealed cartridge where you can. It stays cleaner, it lasts longer. These take a lot more grease and a lot of maintenance. Okay, since we're working on the drive system, it's good to have a chain breaker. Most road bikes and mountain bikes these days don't have a master link. You can get one, but they don't come with a master link generally. So it's good to have a chain breaker. Now, you don't have to have a big beefy pro size one. You can have a little tiny one that will fit in a seat pack just like my other one. You don't have to break a chain very often, so you don't have to have super heavy duty items. I'm not going to demonstrate it. It's real self-explanatory. You hold the chain in, you screw it down, the pin punches the chain link out. My word of advice though, don't push the chain pin all the way out. You're never going to get it back in. You'll have to buy a new or put a new link in, or you'll have to get a new pin from Shimano. Costs a couple bucks, not too big a deal, but when you're out on a trail, you really don't want to shorten your chain any more than you have to. Okay, Allen wrenches we covered. Got to have Allen wrenches for working on brakes. Brakes and derailleurs both deal with cables. Got to have a cable cutter. I know you can do it with dikes. You can do it with lineman's pliers. Cable cutter makes a much cleaner cut, and you don't end up with a hook that can go through and score the Teflon that's inside your cable housing. So a pair of cable cutters, kind of a necessary tool in my book. I'm going to toss that back. Okay, this is called a fourth hand tool or a cable puller. This guy, real simply, if I can find the set of brakes I have around here. Okay, I'm back. I found my brakes. Real simple. You loosen up the binder on the brakes. Come up with your fourth hand tool. You see it butts up against the binder stop station. The lower jaw grabs the brake cable. and pulls those brakes up tight. And you see I can open and close them. So you can set the brakes to the distance you want off the frame or off the rim, and you can tighten them right on up. And so a job that should take 4 hands only takes 2, thus the 4th hand tool. There we go. Good to have. Once again, depending on the kind of headset you have on the bike. Since I'm up the brakes, I may as well consider front brakes. I'm now working on the forks. If I'm working on the forks, I'm up the headset. Headsets are going to be one of 2 types. They're going to be the kind that go onto a fork with no threads. And basically what happens there is a tension cap. If I can find the tension cap I had sitting about here just a few minutes ago. Well, tension on the bearings is taken care of by a cap that has a screw that fits down into the fork. And there, if we look real carefully there, you can see that there is a nut down inside the fork. Now there's a special tool for putting that nut in. Here's one of the nuts, and here's the tool. It screws on. It's a big heavy hunk of metal with a spacer in it that puts it at perfect depth. I'll go ahead and I'll put the specs on my webpage, www.weekendwarrior.20x.cc. And if you want, you can make one out of wood. Some heavy wood, a couple of nuts to act as a spacer, some washers to act as the spacer. The right size bolt for the threads, I think it's maybe a 8mm or something like that. But you can put it in, pound it, bang, the nut goes down inside and it stays. So for that, the tools are simple. The headset just slides into place with the bearings. The stem goes on, the cap goes down, and you use an Allen wrench to put tension on it. The older style is a little bit more difficult. Oops. The threaded headset, the bearings and race thread down over the top of the fork, and there is a skinny little nut here on top. It might be 2 flats, and this one is a nut. So it takes a headset wrench. Because it's skinny, you need a skinny wrench to get on it. This is a 32mm. They can also be 36. And then the lock nut that goes on top of it. It may take a hook spanner. It may take, it may take a crescent wrench. But either way, you're going to need a headset wrench for threaded headsets. You see they're skinny. In this case, this is a double bonus because this has a 15mm cutout on the other end, perfect for a pedal wrench. So this is headset and pedal all in one tool. If you're interested in the Park, it's the Park HCW6. Here's the same thing in a 36mm for oversized headsets. Don't find them too much anymore because everybody's gone threaded or threadless, but if you got an older bike like I've got a couple, these are good tools. If you just want a pedal wrench, pedal wrench. You don't have to have one, but this one has a 15mm and a 9/16. Huffy's and older bikes, single speed beach cruisers, 9/16. The rest of the bikes in the world, 15mm. Headset race tool. Now on top of the fork, or on the bottom down at the shoulder, you'll find a race for the bearings to ride on. If you change your headset, if this thing's pitted, you got to pop it off and put a new one on. You got to be able to press it into place. That's where this tool comes in. You don't have to have this tool. This tool is a nice heavy piece of steel pipe with a very flat end. Get yourself a real heavy piece of pipe that happens to be, oh, say 1 3/8 outer diameter. Make it real flat. Put a cap on the end so you can pound on it, or wooden block on the end so you can pound on it. You got yourself a crown race setting tool. If you change out your headset a lot, maybe a couple times a year, that's a little extreme in my book, but you know, who am I to say? You may want to get yourself a cup remover. This slides down into the frame, pops open, and scrapes the sides of the head tube. So it's going to come in contact with the edges of the cup. You hit it, the cup pops out. This is a handy tool and much better than using one of these for the same job. Okay, what haven't I done here? I've done wheels, I've done bottom brackets, I've done headsets, I've done brakes, I've done derailleurs just by pulling on cables. Let's see. And everything else can be done with a 5 or 6 millimeter Allen wrench, which means we're pretty much done here. That's an overview of the tools. The nice to haves: headset tools, crown race setter, the gotta haves, and acorn nut setter. The rest of them, depending on what you have, you gotta have most of this. You only need what you need for your bike, but this gives you an idea of what's out there. So that's about it. Next time, we'll see if we go on to do some bikes. I did have somebody request that I do some pen turning for them. So I think I might do that next time just to mix it up a little bit. So until then, you all keep up the good fight. I'll keep thinking of things to do, and we'll meet up in the middle. See you later. Hey, something I almost forgot. I've shot this video 3 times, and each time I've forgotten inside the garage, you gotta have a tire pump. Or a compressor that'll go up to 120 pounds for you road bike guys. My compressor will go up that high, but I can't fit a Presta valve with it. So I like to use my race pump. Floor pumps, they go anywhere from $8 at Harbor Freight for a plastic job that, believe it or not, gets the job done for both Presta and Schrader valves, up through this monster for 80 bucks from Specialized, built-in gauge. It doesn't take very many strokes to get a tire up to 120 pounds. But anyway you go, you got to have an air source in the garage too. So that's it. Now we'll see you next time. Bye.